Right now, meteorologist Cody Gottschalk is tracking it all in the First Alert Weather Center with the very latest. Cody.
Yeah, that's right, Julian. Just another reminder here and a quick look. All the counties here in orange are within that tornado watch. Doesn't mean that you won't see a severe thunderstorm in your area. It's just we're also watching for the potential of those tornadoes here in East Texas. Quick look at First Alert Live Doppler radar. A lot of green on the screen, and we're seeing plenty of lightning popping up across Cherokee County as well as we kind of look at our northern zones. Thankfully, at this point, it looks like storms are mostly behaving, but as you're looking across northern Upshur County, also seeing some very heavy rainfall, some more scattered lightning. That'll be moving into that I-30 corridor here pretty soon, and this is a little bit more scattered in nature. Could bring some gusty winds at time, but also nothing near severe limits at this point in time. But then we dip south of I-20. We are watching this one little storm here, the kind of the eastern cell there within that thunderstorm that has now begun to develop damaging gusty winds and the potential for some larger hail that will soon cross over Rusk, eventually pushing over toward the Cushing area with the northern Nacogdoches County and southern Rusk counties. Now, this system here is just a hint at what we can continue to see over the next several hours. So really make sure that you have those phones charged today. Continue to look for the latest information. We'll have an hour-by-hour walkthrough on Futurecast and another look at radar just a little bit later in the show. Back to you, Julian.
All right, Cody, thanks so much.
You're welcome. Hey, thanks, Julian. Yeah, unfortunately, we already have just got our first tornado warning out for East Texas. So kind of right where our far eastern zones within that tornado watch has been issued. So let's jump on over to First Alert Live Doppler radar, where that storm we were talking about in central Cherokee County has now been included within that tornado warning. So what we're going to do here is we're actually going to take a closer look up within that radar system, and hopefully we're going to get this clicker system to work here, but that's okay. I'm going to step off screen for just 1 second, and we're going to get a closer idea of what this system is doing. And maybe we can get a little bit more information too from the National Weather Service. It says here that, let's see, at 6:03, a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was located about 7 miles southeast of Maydale, or 9 miles southwest of Rusk. It's moving toward the northeast at 30 miles per hour. So what we're going to do here is we're actually going to stop our radar, and we're going to turn off this lightning because I know that there is a lot of it. Something we kind of noticed that lightning started to uptick, and that's a good idea of a strengthening updraft, and that's when you get these kind of systems here where they'll start to generating a little bit better updrafts, and that's always a sign that we want to kind of keep an eye out for. Now, at this point, it's really far away from the radar site, but we are seeing some really strong winds heading toward the radar site. A good little indication of something going on. So we're going to zoom this out here. I'd say the best idea of where we are seeing the potential for this tornado would be right along that far southwestern flank there within Cherokee County. We're actually going to put a track here to kind of give you an idea of the location of where this next areas would be. Let's see, toward the northeast at 30 miles per hour. So we will track this off, jump on over here, head on over to properties. Y'all bear with us 1 second here. We'll give you a better idea of what things are going. But a couple ideas of where this system will be moving off toward Rusk at 6:27 when this tornado warned storm will be over your area. So you do have about 20 minutes to get to your tornado safe spot. Atoya at 6:40, Reclaw at 6:48, and Cushing, you are not included within this tornado warning or even this severe thunderstorm warning, but that would be around 7:02. Something that we make sure you have plenty of warning time here to kind of be prepared for this sort of system. This is one of those instances where thankfully this has been about an hour after that tornado watch had been issued, so hopefully y'all have been heeding that clearly and taking the extra time to get prepared. Let's kind of jump back over to our more higher resolution radar, and it has been a pretty nasty storm, and the problem is that right there. At first it was one kind of big blob, but then you notice that cell actually started to kind of split from that parent thunderstorm and kind of took a little bit more of a right turn, and that is what Katie Vossler and I, who's been here since about 4 o'clock, we've been kind of watching radar very closely, and well, we were worried that it was going to take that right turn, and sure enough, that is what has happened. A quick uptick in that lightning showing that strengthening updraft, and unfortunately we are seeing some rotation within that system, so the potential for that tornado is certainly there. I believe we also have the shots at seeing some pretty large hail, upwards to the size of quarters within this system. If this storm can actually continue to strengthen, I wouldn't be surprised to see the size of that hail actually begin to increase as well. So we're actually going to bring our hail scope out here and see if we get a general idea. Yeah, there's certainly something there in terms of severe hail. So on top of the tornado threat, as as well as some very heavy rainfall. I mean, torrential rainfall and a lot of cloud-to-ground lightning. We're also talking about oh, hey, you know what? That's a great point, Katie. Something else that's kind of an issue is this is heading toward, Highway 69, and this is just a really big water rain maker. And so, of course, that means that whatever is on the ground, if there is a tornado on the ground, then, of course, we are looking at the likelihood of it being a rain-wrapped system.
Cody, I'm going to just kind of talk with your mic for just a minute. I've been talking to several of the schools that have been in a UIL meet in Lufkin, and I know that's just wrapping up, and I've had several of the teachers down there and the administrators contacting me about driving back through Cherokee County on Highway 69. So if you are responsible for some of the kiddos down there, if you are waiting for them to come back, let them know that they want to go ahead and hold on and just stay in the Lufkin area for probably another 30 to 45 minutes, because if they were to leave Lufkin now, they would be driving along Highway 69 right into that thunderstorm. You can see where Cody's putting those winds up. Even if there is not a tornado on the ground, there is going to be some extremely high winds with this storm, at least in excess of 60 miles per hour. I would venture to say, Cody, 70, 75 mile per hour winds with this. So if you're driving a bus into this, that's going to cause lots of problems, even if there isn't a tornado on the ground. And with this being radar indicated, that means that a tornado could possibly form at any moment. So for those kiddos that are at that UIL meet in Lufkin, if you have a way to get a hold of them, let them know they should stay there for another 30 minutes or so, not try to head back north on 69 into this thunderstorm as it moves across 69 probably within the next half hour.
Yeah, and the tricky part here, as we mentioned earlier, is how far away this storm is actually, how far away it is from the actual radar site. I mean, we're talking about I'd say a decent 100 miles or so. So what's happening is you're actually seeing this radar beam intersect the storm at a whole lot higher altitude than what we would like it to. The problem is there's a lot of moisture that's in our atmosphere. It's a lot lower to the ground, and that's why it's actually easier for these thunderstorms to kind of spin up. You get that updraft that starts to spin, and then that wall cloud drops. And the problem, of course, with something like Cherokee County, driving on 69, you know how vast and up and down those hills can be. There are a lot of trees in the area, and it's really, really, really tricky to actually get these systems a visible idea of what's going on in this area. So you're seeing the radar intersect a lot higher within that system, and it's hard to see what's actually on the ground. But when you're seeing winds like that in a place like Highway 69, which is kind of like one of those main highway arteries in East Texas on a Saturday, really want to make sure folks are heeding this tornado warning very, very safely. And thankfully, this is the only current severe system that's actually in East Texas. We do have more thunderstorms out and about along and north of I-20, but the main focus right now is on this one severe thunderstorm warning. This thunderstorm warning actually was issued, I'd say, about 20 minutes ago, if not even sooner, but then right quickly after we got that tornado warning. And that shows how quickly the system here is actually intensifying. And that just goes to show you just how much of that lightning and it's just a very, very big pocket of some very heavy rainfall, of course, mixed in with that tornado threat as well as likely that hail threat. So 275, I think, what did we count it at, Katie? Like 30 minutes ago. So rapid intensification. And I do want to note again that that was just along that western flank of where we have that tornado watch issued, okay? So of course, this is when we watch these storms, they develop and they moved into an area that's much more conducive for these storms to actually develop and become more tornadic. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. And we have that tornado watch actually in effect until 11 p.m. Katie, do you think we could pull that view out all the way and kind of give you a better picture of other areas we're watching? Now, we do have more showers and storms within East Texas that are dealing with a tornado watch, but of course these southern areas right now, those storms developed further out toward the southwest and then were allowed to kind of grow and re-strengthen and reorganize over the span of around 30 minutes to an hour and then finally get into a place where it's a little bit more conducive. Still a lot more lightning activity across I-20 and I-30 corridor. Don't think that we're not watching you. It's just at this point in time, they're just blobs. They're just messy thunderstorms. They're not showing any kind of organization, just bringing a good bit of lightning, very heavy rainfall like what is currently tracking over Dangerfield, as well as just off toward eastern Smith County, getting into Gray County, close off toward Overton. You're not dealing with something that's too heavy with terms of rainfall right now. That will likely change. Looks like White House is about to get some very heavy rainfall. You're probably hearing that thunderstorm really booming off in the distance. Same for areas like Troop, but at this point you're dealing with some more of that heavy rainfall. But of course, this northern zone here, that's that weaker part of the thunderstorm that split off. But then you had this next cell that developed, and unfortunately, all the ingredients came into place and led to kind of a nastier system. So I believe it was moving off toward the northeast at about 30 miles per hour. If we can get another idea of what we're seeing, and how about this? This is actually a better looking scan. We're seeing while still strong winds, they're nowhere near as strong as that last scan that was able to push through. But again, this is soon going to be into the Rusk County area. So if you live anywhere along Highway 69 in between Rusk and Alto, even though Alto is not included within that warning, so if you live north of Alto but in between that area and Rusk, I would be taking your tornado safety precautions, making sure you've got the bike helmet, go into that windowless interior room, and make sure that you stay away from as many windows and exterior walls as possible. And unfortunately, within this latest scan, it looks like we're actually getting some more return velocity data. So we're starting to see more spin within that updraft, the potential for that tornado that's actually going to drop down. So really, at this point in time, folks near or south of Rusk, I would really start to really take that seriously, especially what is that, FM23 toward FM23 west, as well as areas like Highway 69, Rusk. I know it's not the most populated area, a little bit more rural, but we're starting to get better return scans here of that wraparound, that the reds and the greens have actually started to kind of spin together a little bit better, and unfortunately that means that this storm is continuing to organize. As we get more scans, we're showing that the storm is not showing any kind of signs of weakening, unfortunately. So again, areas like Rusk, and I know Reckle at this point in time is not included within that tornado warning, but if we continue to see the storm organizing, well, that means that you would likely be included within that next tornado warning if they decide to issue it again. So another idea of timing here. Rusk isn't included as it's just outside that cone, but again, Rusk and areas just to the south, you've got at this point probably the next 5 to 10 minutes, but then we get to Recklaw, 6:34 is when this storm will be in your area. Laneville, 6:52, Mount Enterprise, 6:59, and now we're really getting to areas that are outside of that cone, but that gives you an idea of the general direction that we're heading within this specific storm, this specific system here. So another reminder as well, if you're in this tornado warn system, but you want to make sure you can still hear what's going on, again, make sure you take your phones into the bathroom with you or wherever your tornado safe spot is. Grab the blankets. Make sure that you grab something to protect your head and the kiddo's head, a helmet, or at least bring that blanket over. You can even turn the TV on as loud as it can go and then go into your tornado safe spot just to be on the safe side so you can have as much information pulling over into your area as well. Kind of another better idea of some roads here. Of course, the main circulation that we're worried about is just along FM23 West. That's going to likely maybe clip Loop 343 for Rusk and then continuing off toward FM343, kind of crossing where 69 is. So the main area is this little area here that we're watching kind of in central Cherokee County. And again, this is a very hilly area. We know there's a lot of ups and downs on 69. As you go through Cherokee County, there's a lot of wooded areas, and there's also a lot of rain, just torrential amounts of rain that this system is dropping. So you will not likely see this tornado if it is on the ground, but you will feel it. There's already probably seeing some of these winds actually reach Highway 69, and that is really going to be pushing off in toward the area, and that's something that's going to be kind of an issue because of those northern and southernmost zones where you're going to get flanked from the west, and that's going to be making it very difficult to drive on those roads. But that's of course not even included that tornado threat, which is going to be something that we just are unfortunately dealing with today. Katie, any new information coming in from National Weather Service or anybody?
It's moving northeast at 30 miles per hour.
Northeast at 30.
Yeah, I mean, all of the other severe weather is up to our north and east, so we're just dealing with this one storm. It's moving northeast once again at 30 miles per hour, so basically, as we've been talking about, it's right over the Rusk area. So far, we do not have confirmation of a tornado on the ground. It is just radar indicated. Okay,
gotcha. Well, I'd say the good point is this is kind of in a rural area, and that's fantastic news. The problem with that is getting any kind of information out and about. I really would not be surprised, even without that tornado warning in effect. You're seeing winds that bright green, anywhere from around 70 to 80 mile per hour wind gusts are possible when we're seeing return values like that. And I would not be surprised to see some trees coming down within a system like this. Another reminder too, of course, we are still watching this. This kind of event's kind of the wait and see at this point in time. You know, we're waiting on our next velocity scan to get a better idea of maybe are we getting a better couplet forming within the storm. It's not exactly the signature kind of flying V that you see within these thunderstorms. We're not seeing that definitive definitive hook echo within the wall cloud, but it is certainly still showing signs. So that's probably more of a broad system. It's just a big lowering within that cloud, bringing that potential for the, of course, heavy rainfall and those strong, damaging, gusty winds within that potential for that tornado threat as well. Seeing anything you want to jump in here, Katie?
At this point, I'm really worried about Rusk up to around Reclaw. I'm worried about Reclaw because it's not under the tornado warning. So
exactly.
I'm assuming that because of that, they haven't gotten the tornado warning on their cell phones, on things like that. But this is heading in that direction. So if you're in Reclaw, you need to go ahead and take your tornado precautions now, or at least be ready to jump into that interior room as soon as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. This system is not screaming off toward the northeast like some of those thunderstorms that are developing north of I-20, but it is moving at a pretty good clip at around 30 miles per hour. Still seeing, it's kind of broad, but it's just, I can understand why they issued that tornado warning just by how strong some of the return velocity is on that system that's now kind of in between that small county road and off toward Highway 69. So, thinking about folks on the road, if like Katie said, we got UIL stuff going on, we got games going on. It's a Saturday here in East Texas. If you know you've got family out on the roads that might be within the Rusk to Alto area, maybe give them a call. Make sure that they're aware of what is about to cross over into their area. We just really want to make sure that folks are prepared for something like this. This is kind of a nasty situation where you're in a very wooded area. There's a lot of rain within this tornado warning area. So again, Reclaw, let's see, 6:45, and it's currently 6:20. So if you live in Reclaw, you still have about 25 minutes here to prepare. But if you're in Rusk, now is that time for you to be in that windowless interior room, or if you have more of an open floor plan like I do at my house, I know Katie does as well, just try to get to a place where you have as many exterior walls as you can, preferably a room without as many windows. And if you're in that kind of situation, you just want to try to grab, maybe the football helmet, or if your kids play baseball, whatever you can, get that sort of protection on their heads and have that blanket, wrap it around them, wrap it around yourselves as well. A lot of lightning. We're continuously seeing the system continue to strengthen here. That is just a ton of lightning within this thunderstorm. And we goodness gracious, we did get that report of a lot of that more positive charged lightning, and generally they'll come in from the tops of those thunderstorms and come all the way down to the ground. They're very strong, and they're generally what can lead to a lot of, maybe if they hit that tree, they lead to the fire. They can certainly bring into a lot of power outages within the area. And I think that jumped up to like 468, which is almost double within the last scan. So certainly seeing a rapidly intensifying storm here. The good news is this is the only severe storm in all of East Texas, at least at this point in time, knock on wood for sure. But oh my goodness gracious, that might be a little bit messy here. We might be dealing with some rougher data, but if that is not the case, well then we're certainly seeing even stronger wind gusts within this system, and unfortunately potential for that likely rotating culprit within this storm, bringing in that tornado threat that's also occluded by that rain and making it a little bit more difficult to see. This is kind of, we talk about this all the time, the radar hole in East Texas, where we're seeing the radar scans likely more than 5,000 to 7,000 feet above where we would like it to be, and it just makes it difficult to get that extremely important information here. So again, the main focus at this point in time is we're just going to keep hammering home is areas close to Highway 69 in between Rusk and Alto. And Alto, you're not included within that storm. I don't want you thinking that you are, but that's just the best landmark that we can kind of put between this area. So if you live north of Alto, south of Rusk, anywhere close to 69, this is your time to take your tornado precautions, and as well for areas like Reclaw. And I wouldn't even rule out places like Cushing at this point in time, because the problem why this storm is intensifying is it kind of took more of that right turn, okay? So Reclaw, you're kind of in its sights right now, but as we kind of start to see that more right turn, well, that could put Cushing there within that threat as well. So don't exactly go rushing to your tornado safe spot just yet, but I certainly would make sure, just like Katie said earlier, make sure you have everything ready so you can run into that bathroom or that windowless interior room so you can trend a bit more on the safe side. And that latest hail scan, we're seeing a lot more dark grays, a little bit of that light gray there as well. Still probably registering no larger than quarters at this point in time, but that's just within this latest scan. So you're talking in around ½ an inch. We call that pocket change hail, likely anything from pea size to pennies, maybe getting upwards to the size of quarters at its strongest. Just with this latest scan, we're just not seeing anything indicative of that within this system at this point in time. But That is also likely because we're seeing a more messy storm, and we're seeing a lot of this rainfall kind of falling up and down within itself, and that's making it a little bit more difficult for the storm to breathe. The problem, though, is it continues to organize. It's just not nearly tilted as much, so we're probably not seeing a whole lot of that system being allowed to kind of allow that hail size to grow, but it is also fairly low. It's also not the tallest storm system that we've seen, and something kind of want to keep in mind there.
Notch that looks like it's trying to form, Cody.
Yeah.
Can you see that just off from 69 there? You can see it on some of our, let's see if we can go to the high resolution radar and see if we can see it a little bit better. I'm going to stop the radar right there. I know it's not much, but that's just a little bit of an indication, another indication, if you will, of rotation within this storm.
Yeah, so what you're seeing there is essentially what we would call the rear flank downdraft. So what you're seeing is it takes a lot of moving parts for a storm to really get that tornado warning. First, you get the storm to pop up, you get the updraft within it. Eventually, when that updraft starts to spin, it's not immediately that tornado warning, but they help that hail to actually form within the system. But when you see these rotating updraft, you're actually going to see a lot of that cooler air off toward the northern part of the storm start to wrap around in it. But that's the problem, though. Cooler, drier air mixing in with that very unstable and very buoyant, warmer air, it kind of helps allow that system to breathe. So you're seeing this thunderstorm trying its best. I know it's a messier storm, so it's doing its best, but it's having trouble to really get in that actual, we call it the signature flying V, where you get the hook echo and then you get the outflow within that storm kind of forking out. But this is more of a messy blob. It's dropping a lot of rain where most of that updraft and the downdraft is feeding within the storm and making for a really difficult time in actually tracking where the actual specific parts of the rotation is. But at this point in time, I would still be focused along areas along Highway 69. And then tracking off toward, I guess at this point, it's maybe even worth mentioning toward the east-northeast rather than just toward the northeast here. And that's where that system is kind of stuck right in between Highway 69 and FM 343, with kind of dealing with kind of a nasty or maybe even a slightly corrupted radar scan within this system. But some roads across the area, better idea. Again, Loop 343 across from Rusk toward FM, I guess that's where it turns into FM 343 East. Basically, if you live between there and also Highway 69, you just really want to be within your tornado safe spot just to be on the safe side. Other smaller areas like Atoy, now is your time as well to get in that tornado safe spot, get away from windows, get away from those exterior walls, and just stay there because this system is moving, again, about 30 miles an hour, so it'll likely be right on top of you or just off toward the north of you. It's kind of flirting that edge there within the next, I'd say, 5 to maybe 10, maybe 15 minutes in your area. And again, Reklaw, you're probably seeing a more uptick in that heavier rainfall, maybe even seeing some hail start to pop off, as well as a lot of that lightning within that system. Looks like even areas like Laneville, Mount Enterprise, you're getting some of that heavier rainfall, about the uptick from that, but that's actually well out from that severe thunderstorm, or at least a portion of the storm that is currently severe warned. Also looks like with this latest scan, the hail itself is not as large, but we are seeing a greater coverage. So it looks like the hail core is actually getting a little bit bigger. Just another hint at a continuously...
There's the new tornado warning, Cody.
There we go. Okay, new tornado warning. Did they give any new information within that warning?
Let's see, it's until 7:15.
7:15, okay.
This is going to be for Cherokee, Nacogdoches, Rusk County, and they're saying that it is right now near Sakul. I probably mispronounced that. I do it every time. Near Rusk, moving northeast now at 35 miles per hour.
35 miles per hour. Okay, so now it's starting to get a little bit faster. And again, with this latest scan, we're starting to see a little bit better organization, a little bit better idea of where we're seeing the inflow within that system there. So now that we have a better watch box here, we can give you a better idea of who's going to get the storm and when. Again, it's moving off toward the northeast at around 35 miles per hour. So Reklaw at 636. It is 6:28 now. So now you've got a little bit under 10 minutes to get to your tornado safe spot. Anadarko 650, Laneville 658, Mount Enterprise at 706, and you are right in within the cusp of that tornado warning, and that is about as good of a warning as you're going to get, about a 30-minute lead time. But of course, for areas like Reklaw, areas close to Rusk, Atoy, you're going to want to be in your tornado safe spot now, because we have at this point not gotten confirmation of this tornado being on the the ground, but that doesn't mean you should be looking out the window either way. Treat it like a confirmed tornado, because in this specific spot here, it's going to be very difficult to get an idea on what is actually on the ground or not until we can actually see the storm move out of the way and see what kind of damage it has done. And still seeing some pretty decent velocity returns. We're still seeing a really good idea of some of the winds that are heading toward the radar, but you see this sort of darker red here, not very bright, but we are getting an idea of there's at least rotation within this thunderstorm. So we are seeing likely that rotating updraft. We are seeing the lowering of that rotating updraft. It's just a good idea of, is this tornado on the ground? I would really hope that you're still taking it as seriously as we are and making sure that you're in that tornado safe spot. If you were, then as we were talking about, just off toward the southeast of Rusk near Atoy, right along, what is that, FM 343 East, well, that's right where that tornado, if it is on the ground, that's where it would be. So areas within and just around Atoy, you want to make sure that you are also within your tornado safe spot. Sakul, I hope I'm saying that right. You're going to be in the next spot here where we're watching very closely. So areas across, at this point, eastern Cherokee County, northern Nacogdoches, and southern Rusk counties are really going to make sure that you're doing your best to be prepared and be ready for this tornado threat, because it is, of course, ongoing. The system has shown nothing but signs of strengthening and becoming better organized. We're seeing now a larger hail core. Maybe the hail itself at this point hasn't begun to get larger, but we're just seeing a bigger swath of this storm developing that hail, which also means that the storms are now getting taller. We're going to start to see more frequent lightning, likely more cloud-to-ground lightning. And that, of course, is causing issues as well, hopefully not knocking out too much power within the area. But also notice how more linear that this tornado warning box is, as we're likely going to start to see an uptick in the speed of that system here as it begins to move in toward a little bit more populated areas, or the potential of it moving into those areas as well. So another reminder, areas like Rekla, Atoy, you're already taking your tornado precautions, hopefully, but now we start focusing on areas as we get in toward extreme northern, or I guess maybe even northwestern Nacogdoches County and southern and central Rusk counties. Again, Anadarko 647 is when this system will likely arrive in your area. Laneville 655. So we're talking anywhere from around 15 to 25, 30-minute lead time for when this system is expected to actually arrive in your area. We sure hope that it doesn't. We hope it falls apart when it actually gets to your location. Either way, be ready for when it can finally get into where you are currently living. So again, another kind of a loop of see how this system is kind of going on, and I mean, unfortunately, it's just not showing signs of choking itself out, unfortunately. When you start to see better organization, the storm can breathe a little bit better. Earlier I mentioned it was messy. It means a lot of the rain and hail was also where some of that updraft was, and it was kind of limiting some of the strength there. But as it starts to move a little bit faster toward the northeast, you can see that downdraft a little bit further off toward the northeast of that updraft as well, and that pushes a lot of the weight off of that updraft. And that means the storms can become taller, they can become stronger, they can organize a little bit better, and that's unfortunate for us here in East Texas, because that means that the storm is showing no signs of weakening. 918 is the latest lightning strikes within that last half hour. I tell you, probably half of that is within that one tornado warned system that is currently here within portions of Cherokee, Nacogdoches, and Rusk counties. Any information, Katie? Any new stuff from the National Weather Service?
You know, the new severe warning that they've posted is up to our north and east. For Bowie County until 7:30. That's also going to include Cass County until 7:30. It looks like they do have a report that there could be a tornado on the ground east of Rusk. So let's focus more on that tornado warning. If you want to tag out Cody, if they've got my microphone out, I'll let you run some radar information. Okay, so first of all,